Tripoli trying to make his way from third. Down on the rail is Royal Ship, passing Cupid's Claws with every stride, but Tiz the Magician still going strong. Here's Tripoli starting to make a move, but it's Tiz the Magician who's going to they hit the top of the stretch. Here's Tiz the Magician and Tripoli. These two start to kick clear from the rest. Tiz the Magician, Tripoli running the better race here.
Fight back, Tiz. Come on. Get back at him. God damn it.
Gaining with every stride. Tiz the Magician trying to fight back, but it's Tripoli. Tripoli 6-1 over Tiz the Magician in the TVG Pacific Classic.
It's been another week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael Newmagic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last answers. They know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, episode 302. Mr. Somich.
Huzzah!
I am so proud to be a grade 1 placed owner of a horse alongside you. Very proud of our boy Tiz the Magician. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, no, it's a cool feeling, especially when, we bought Tiz before you'd ever raced. So that you kind of grew up, or Tiz grew up with you as being part of it versus kind of getting in later. I know that you've obviously a grade 1 winning owner because it got stormy, but this one feels a little different because this is kind of like your baby going to school, and you get proud of them when they catch that first touchdown and then they make the first basket, and like, this is one of those moments. It definitely was something I was pretty proud of when it happened on Saturday. Although I think my emotion in that video clip said it all. I mean, I was just stoic knowing that we were going to lose and it was going to be Tripoli. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But it obviously would have been nice to win the race. But here we are.
There would have been 600,000 reasons it would have been nice to win that race. Yeah. It was funny that you say that because that's actually what I was going to say next is watching that back. I clearly wasn't watching our stream when the race was going on. We're all watching the race very differently, and I think it shows off our personalities when we're at the tracks. I think that's pretty close to how we are. I've never seen you so stoic watching a race before. Like, that was like it does say it all. Like, you knew it. I was still hopeful. I'm like, come on, maybe I can will him there. And you've seen enough of these races, Mike. You kind of knew how that was going to end up, but still a valiant effort from Tiz the Magician.
It was a valiant effort. That race is just, and we're going to talk a lot about the Pacific Classic. That race was just frustrating to me because I thought Tripoli was harder to get to than the winner of the last race, which was 26-1. So, we'll just, Tripoli was the reason my face was like that, not because Tiz the Magician had lost.
It was a fun weekend. Del Mar took center stage. Saw a couple of great races at Saratoga, so we're going to talk about those as well. If you're watching live, thanks for joining us. Give us a like, a thumbs up, hit subscribe on that YouTube channel. You'll get notified every time that we go live or Blinkers Off or Ricky's Rockets. Mike, one thing I was going to ask you is what is the best thing that you saw this weekend? Because there is a lot to choose from.
There was a lot to choose from, and I actually had one going into today. But today, I got to tell this story. I talk a lot about the tournament community and how cool the tournament community is. I played BC with someone named Ryan last year at Gulfstream Park, and Justin and Rich too. But Ryan had never really played a big tournament before. That was one of his big first forays into it. We talked 2 days. He then played Keeneland, talked a couple days, and he's done an absolutely wonderful job of progressing through. He's a threat in any tournament he enters now. He's got 2 BC seats. He's got a pair of NHC seats for next year. Unfortunately, he can't make it to NHC this year, and he found out today. But he had a first chance, last chance entry. And so I randomly got a text this morning saying, hey, I've got this entry. Is there any chance you want to use it? Well, I've double qualified for first chance, last chance, so I couldn't use it. But my dad is flying out for NHC, and he has never played in a major tournament. And he spent all weekend trying to qualify for first chance, last chance. And Ryan was nice enough to give this entry to my dad, who's now going to be able to play with me on Thursday. So Ryan, who listens to the show, watches every now and then, thank you very much, man. It is really cool when you're involved in a community that supports each other and that you kind of randomly have friends who reach out. I hope everything is well. I'm not going to go into why he can't go, but I hope everything's well there. And I really appreciate him doing it. It's just a really cool gesture, and it means a lot to my dad, and I'm excited to be able to play the tournament with him. So NHC kind of taken to that next level here, going with the person that got me into it, and now the fact that he's going to be able to play it because of the generosity of someone else in the community is absolutely awesome.
That is awesome. Literally the chat is agreeing with us there. That's really cool. It's also, I will say, it's also really cool that they have it set up that they allow for that to happen. I think that going back to the community part that you're talking about, they're willing to let these things. Sometimes there's other reasons it happens, but in this case, it's a really nice reason, and it's going to get someone involved. And as you said, someone who put a lot of money, it sounds like, into those tournaments trying to qualify. So nice little, I guess, booby prize for his very generous investment over the weekend.
Well, he was super excited when I called him after I got the text from Ryan. So he was very excited. And Ryan, I owe you a dinner in San Diego. Can't wait to pay off that debt. It's going to be great. I mean, he's fired up, already printed out the forms. I've got my 28 races for Thursday's contest already printed out. It's going to be an absolute blast. The last text I sent to Ryan was, man, now I just got to beat my dad. I can't let him beat me now. So it's going to be a fun time on Thursday.
Hey, listen, if the worst thing that happens is Papa Somich has beginner's luck like you did last year, I think it's going to be a good time for you guys. That's awesome. I felt bad because I had not going to be able to go this year with Colston and with everything happening with COVID, especially the surges right now. We're trying to keep it safe, so I'm not going to be traveling. But so I was really sad that I couldn't go to Las Vegas. But I'm glad not only are you going to have someone else there for a cheering section, but now somebody competing with you and bouncing off for you. Plus, the father-son relationship's a nice little cherry on the top.
That'd be a hell of a story if he qualifies for NHC on Thursday. It's first chance, last chance. So you can qualify for 2021 or 2022. I think it's 1 in 15 get a seat for NHC. So he's got a 1 in 15 shot to be playing all weekend, which would be pretty damn amazing if he's able to do it.
I'm very happy for you. That's really great. But I've got two best things. I'm going to cheat on this one. One of them just kind of popped up recently. So people say sometimes horse racing's dead or it's dying. Nobody told Del Mar or Woodbine this weekend or Saratoga last
decent
weekend.
Days.
36 million, just like a hair over 36 million wagered at Del Mar on Saturday, which smashed the record of 25.7 or 25.8 $1 million. So that was incredible. It helped a lot that there was almost $11 million in the Pick Six jackpot or the Pick Six payout pool that happened. But definitely cool that they got to break that record. Also,
I was getting pool shame too because I said it was going to be 10 million and people were like, it was 4 million with like 8 minutes to post. People were like, no way it gets to 10. Yeah. You're crazy. No, it's 11 million, folks. The money comes in late.
So Aaron and I were hanging out before the live stream started, just on the back end talking shit about, and we were like, I swear, with 2 minutes to post, it was under 5 million still, and we're like, man, like this is bad. And I was like, this is not anything close to what Somich is. And I remember seeing your tweet, and then I like look away for a minute, and it's like they're going in the gate, and I look, and it flashes 10.6, and I was like, where the did that money come from? I mean, money coming in late is one thing. That's literally Brinks trucks just pouring into Del Mar at the last second.
Those picks, like the big time tickets, come in the last 3 minutes, right? The absolute big time tickets, and that's what you see in those races. And here's the thing: if you have a 25% takeout and there's 2 million sitting there in the pool, 8 million is the minimum that's going to get bet most of the time, because that 8 million, then there's the $2 million takeout, and you're playing for $8 million. It's zero takeout essentially, because the carryover covers the takeout of the new money. So you can pretty much multiply whatever the carryover amount is by 4 and then add it to the carryover amount. And that's like the lowest you're going to see in most of these Pick Six pools.
Can I tell you, I literally, as you said that, just figured out that's how you always are able to guess these. I was like, man, Mike he's just freaking Rayman. Which you are still smart for having figured that out, but you say that, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. Why did I never figure that out? But that's why you're you and I'm me. So, so not only did you have that, Woodbine had the Queen's Plate, which is their big $1 million race on Sunday, and they had their second highest handle ever. It was what they get over 16 million, including 3.5 on the Queen's Plate itself, and second to only in 2019's Queen Plate had 18 million flat bet. So really great. And the Saratoga, we just had that huge record last weekend for the Whitney Stakes Day. So I'm going to disagree with you, Denny. Dennis says that card at Del Mar didn't deserve that much money for as bad as those horses were. That's why it deserved that money, because it was not easy to sit there and pick 6 winners, just go chalk. It started chalk, but it very quickly got away from chalk after that. So I think that because you didn't have a Mo Forza, a private mission, every race winning, I think that's partially why you saw so much come out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that was a grade 3 talent race, the Pacific Classic, and a grade 1 betting race. I mean, that's the thing, that the fact that Tripoli goes off at 6-1 and wins the race, I thought it should have been 20-1. But like, you have Tis a Magician going off at 5-6-1. You have Dr. Post going off at 4-5-1. It is a very well varied board. And the thing is that I had people passionately tell me 6 horses were going to win that race, which makes a great betting race because you have a lot of people who tried to single in that race. And we're trying to find, I was one of them to pick 4 because we'll get there later. But you had everyone trying to get through that race shallow when you really had 7 horses that could win it.
Yeah. Man, we'll talk more about the Pacific Classic race later because that's a fun one. I'm very happy because I kept, as soon as the fields were, like the probables were coming out for the Pacific Classic, I was like, this looks a lot like the 2019 edition when Higher Power won. He was 9-1. Ironically, Ronus Racing Sadler trained. But I was looking at this. This feels a lot like that because it's, as you said perfectly, grade 3 field, grade 1 betting race. I loved Higher Power in that race, and it paid off really well. Higher Power then got 3rd in the Awesome again and 2nd at the Breeders' Cup Classics, or 3rd at the Breeders' Cup Classic. So we'll figure out later if we think Tripoli will go on that path. The other best thing I've heard late last week, my mother-in-law is coming out from Halloween through November 7th. So what that means, there's somebody else that's going to be here during Breeders' Cup week. So what that means...
Boy.
San Diego. I'm excited. So that's great. Yeah, that was a really great thing to hear because I would feel extremely guilty leaving Mrs. Magic behind with still an infant. So nope. Now we're bringing in the infantry. We're bringing in the backup. So I'm gone.
Extremely guilty, or just guilty when you leave the apartment, and then 10 minutes later you're fine?
Yeah. it's the latter. Yeah, that's great. But hey, anyways, let's get into speaking of Breeders' Cup. We got a lot of great races to talk about. They're all going to have Breeders' Cup implications because Del Mar's hosting the Breeders' Cup. So let's not waste any more time here, Mike. Riders up.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off before you talk so I can do comments on something really quick. Sorry. I'm going to start out with Ross's question here because I think this is important. How does it make sense having the $1 pick 6 at Saratoga but the 50-cent pick 5? First off, I love this. I love the $1 pick 6. And Saratoga did it strategically. They're trying to create a carryover in the pick 6. They take 15% out of the pick 6 when it's a $1 bet. They take 23 or 25% when it's a carryover. So their idea is trying to create the carryover and create a bigger pool. So the reason for the $1 denomination is to lower the number of combinations in the pick 6 to try and help create a carryover situation. It also means you can play a low takeout pick 6 that pays massive amounts. If you look at, I think it was Sunday's card, the favorite was paying $1,600 and you had 3 even money shots winning the sequence. So it would have been 4 even money shots and it would have been $1,600. And I think 5-1 was the largest winner simply because that $1 denomination makes it pay out a ton better. But the reasoning for it is the track wants to create a carryover in the pick 6 with a $1 denomination.
Thank you for catching that. I saw that in the chat earlier, and I was like, I want to make sure we go back to that, and it slipped my mind. So glad you brought that up. It does scare away some people like me. The pick 6 that I didn't connect with at Del Mar. I tried it, though, for 20 cents, and with the mandatory payout is why I got into it. So it was a lot of fun. You know what wasn't fun? Seeing Tripoli come home. Winning the Pacific Classic gives Ronus Racing, the owners, and John Sadler, the trainer, 3rd Pacific Classic in 4 years. Accelerate did in 2018, won the Classic that year. Higher Power, as I mentioned, was 3rd behind Vino Rosso and McKinsey at Santa Anita. I can't fault him because Tiago Pereira rode a perfect race. I didn't realize till after the race this was his only mount, and he said he did that strategically so he could just focus on this race all day. Don't love the result, but necessarily because I want Tiz Magician to win. But walk me through Tripoli's win here, and then I'll get to the one burning question in a second.
I mean, it was just a really workmanlike effort, right? It seemed like no one was really closing all day at Del Mar. You didn't see any horses absolutely flying from off the pace. I think that Tiz Magician and Tripoli did a good job of taking advantage a little bit of the track bias here, especially, just being on the rail and being up close to the lead. If you look at the times, only one horse was really the incremental fractions. Only one horse was really closing any, and that's Dr. Post, who we'll get into in a second here because his trip, you could have a 30 for 30 on Dr. Post's trip here. I think Tripoli just ground this one out. And I thought Tiz Magician ran well, didn't give up, clearly got the distance. I was really disappointed in a couple horses here, but I don't think we can take much away from Tripoli. He ran a career best race. His 3rd time on dirt. Horse clearly likes Del Mar. Comes back with a 104 buyer here. has to be considered at least a competitor in the Breeders' Cup Classic if he can repeat this effort, which is crazy to say because I thought very little of this horse going into Saturday.
That leads right into the one burning question. Where do you rank him amongst the division contenders?
Man.
How about this? I'll work in Dennis's comment here too, because I did see it on Twitter. Do you put Tripoli in the top 5? Is he a top 5 contender for the Breeders' Cup Classic?
I think so. I mean, doing it at this track is a big deal to me because horses don't like Del Mar. And him proving that he liked Del Mar, I think at least has to put him in the top 5. I mean, who are you give me 5 horses you're putting ahead of him right now.
That's a fun one. So Nick's Go, that's an obvious one. Essential
Go.
Quality.
Agreed.
Hot Rod Charlie, maybe. We got to see how he comes back because he was injured.
I mean, well, that's the thing. Now you're like, okay, maybe Hot Rod Charlie, maybe Life is Good, maybe Maxfield. Like you're now Maxfield. There's this group of like 6 horses that I could make a legitimate argument should be included in the next year. If you're saying top 5 win threat, then I think Hot Rod Charlie falls off the top 5. Right? I mean, because we've not seen him beat anybody consistently. He runs second or third a lot, but he can't. He's kind of like Tiz the Magician in that sense, but he can't win. So I think you kind of have to put Tripoli on that list based on this performance and now back-to-back performances and the fact that he can be getting that better on dirt. I mean, it's a kitten's joy. This is a son of kitten's joy that just won the Pacific Classic. It's crazy. It clearly looks like it's bred for the turf, but the horse is taken to Del Mar twice now. And if we see any improvement off this race, and it's a career best buyer, but this is a 4-year-old late in the season. Kitten's joys generally get better as they get older. You can't tell me he's going to, maybe he regresses a little, but you can't tell me you expect him to run an 88 next time out or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it really boils down to you've got your A list, your elites, you've got your Knicks Go, your essential quality. And then after that, like you said, you can make a case for and against simultaneously for about 7-8 horses in that spot. Before we talk about the runner-up, let's talk about Dr. Post. That was a horse that, to me, Mike looked like he didn't like Del Mar because he kept backing up until he got wide in the far turn, and then that's when you see him gobble up ground. I can sit here and be like, hey, I was correct because I thought he was a bad play in this race, but he got third, and the horse that I singled, Royal Ship, is still trying to finish because he hates Del Mar's dirt about as much as Arrogate, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Royal Ship hates Del Mar's dirt or loves Santa Anita's. That's still up for debate because he hasn't run anywhere near those numbers anywhere else besides Santa Anita. So maybe this is a horse for course Santa Anita versus hates Del Mar, but we'll get into why Royal Ship sucks later. This trip on Dr. Post was crazy. And if you listen to Joel Rosario talk about it after the race, he's like, I was trying to get him engaged, and he kind of just lost the bit there. And then when he re-engaged, man, he had everything. And even Joel was shocked at how well that he re-engaged after he kind of faded back. That he just got disinterested in the middle of the race. And then all of a sudden,
there was a bell curve to his race style. Is what
an inverted one. He started out fast and really slow and then got fast again. Man, that to me was just shocking when you saw that race because I thought he was going to lose by 50 lengths in the backstretch. And then all of a sudden he is just flying. So now you kind of look at this and you're like, okay, if the middle of that race wasn't so freaking awful from Dr. Post, where would he have been? Because he was clearly the best of the rest horses and he took 2 furlongs off. So I'm like, the problem with this is that I can't draw a line through him. And I can't really support him either off this because, maybe he's just a head case, but I would be shocked if you don't see him in the Breeders' Cup Classic now. Because he clearly, I don't think he minded the track. I think he just literally mentally lost it in the middle of the race.
As far as why Royal Ships sucked in this race, I think now we've seen back-to-back where the Del Mar races weren't great. I was making plenty of excuses for his trip in the San Diego. He was stuck inside, and the track was very favoring outside 3-4 lanes on the dirt. This time he had no excuse. Mike Smith tipped him out off the turn, and he quit. And at that point he quit, ran out of gas, and afterwards he said that he and Mandela both said they think maybe it's just that they need to give him a break now. Just lots of hard races trying to listen. I know somebody said he lost your country grammar. He stinks. When you're leading a Bob Baffert horse and that horse re-engages on you at the last second and beats you, that does something. You lose a lot of extra energy. So maybe he needs a break. Maybe like Mike's saying, he just needs to stay at Santa Anita, race on the dirt. let's talk about the runner-up now, because clearly he loves Del Mar. He's run several of his best races at Del Mar here. Loves the distance of what the marathon will be, but now he gets second in the Pacific Classic. So this is something we talked about in the StreamYard, but I'd love your opinion now on our show. One burning bonus question for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Should Tiz the Magician point to the Classic or to the marathon?
Breeders' Cup Classic. It's simply a money thing here. You're going to get smoked by Lone Rock most likely in the marathon, right? I mean, because Lone Rock is going to go 12 furlongs, and so you got to think that he ends up there. So do you want to face Lone Rock and get smoked? Do you want to face Nick's Go and get smoked? So the thing is that finishing second in the marathon pays less than finishing fourth in the Breeders' Cup Classic. So I think from a money perspective, and like, look, this is my racehorse horse. Go for back-to-back classics. Just take a swing. It's not like the ownership, like, come on, go for it. Why not? So I think that going for the Breeders' Cup Classic makes more sense from a financial perspective. Now, where do I think he has a better chance at winning the race? It's the marathon.
Yeah.
Right? But where do I think he should go? It's the Classic.
Man, I just like the imagining. I know he won't have the lead because Nick's Go is going to be in the race. But if he had the lead in the goddamn Breeders' Cup Classic off the turn, you saw in the video how much fun I had when he had the lead off the turn in the Pacific Classic against a bunch of donkeys. You put him in the Breeders' Cup Classic, I'm there live. You're gonna hear me screaming from like the barns or something.
Every bit of me hopes that Life is Good fricking airs on Saturday. Absolutely airs, and Life is Good ends up in the Breeders' Cup Classic with Nick's Go. Because that is the one horse that no one is really talking about that can actually run with Nick's Go. That could actually put a ton of... See, never mind. Everyone but Nick and I are not talking about the fact that this is the horse that can run with Nick's Go early. This is the one that can cause trouble. And if we can get Tiz to sit in third, comfortably just loping along, plodding away, and you've got Nick's Go and you've got Life is Good popping a 108 off in front... Why can't we pass them and hold everyone else off? I mean, that's the logical way that he is a competitor here, is that someone goes and just cooks Nick's Go. And the only someone I know that can go and cook Nick's Go, while also thinking that it's like a decently smart decision, is Life is Good.
I want to give a shout out to Nick because he and I were chatting this morning. He was asking a bunch of questions about Life is Good, actually. And Mike Smith I forgot about this, but Nick found the tweet. Mike Smith is confirmed to go ride Life is Good. So Mike Smith really wants to keep that mount, and he's willing to go to New York and ride for Pletcher for that spot. So
based on how everyone was commenting to me singling Mike Smith, I guess he's the worst jockey in the world now. I mean, I got so much hate.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't noticed him being that terrible at Del Mar, but I guess Mike Smith is no longer a good jockey.
Well, I didn't even think it was because singling him at Del Mar. People just were like, oh, you can't single Mike Smith anymore. He's terrible. I'm like, the guy that's ridden Althiqa to like monstrous grade 1 wins in New York against better jockeys top to bottom. Like that Mike Smith? No? Okay.
He's burning Money Mike now instead of Money Mike.
Yeah. Boy, it's going to be fun. The Traverse Weekend's coming up. We got Life is Good is going to be there. We've got Essential Quality. There's a lot more to this. We are far from talking about it, but let's move on to the next race or else we're going to be stuck here all day. The next race I want to talk about, Mike, is going to be the Del Mar Mile. We saw the big return of Mo Forza, the defending race champion. We hadn't seen him since October of last year. About half the way through the race, Mike, I was a little nervous because I was like, he looks lost, confused. Came off the turn, kept wanting to angle in, and then as soon as he got straightened out, Mike, that horse was freaking gone. Flavian Pratt, look at how calm he is in this photo. Look at Humberto Reese playing smooth like straight, going, God damn it, I really thought we were going to win that one. Nope. Mo Forza, if he stays healthy, Mike, my one burning question, is the Breeders' Cup Mile his race to lose?
I'm going to... If no Europeans come over, yes. I think that's the end. Like, the problem is we don't know who's going to come over from the European side.
Yeah.
And that's going to make a big deal. I mean, you could make an argument that Got Stormy ran just as good of a race last weekend, the same buyer figures.
Don't make me do that. Don't make me decide.
And you know the turf is going to be firm, and she's going to show up in the mile race. She's not going to show up in the sprint. Yep. So, like, Got Stormy's going to be in here. She just ran huge. For the record, Mo Forza, I think, would smoke Got Stormy. But I'm making this the case here that, they both ran the same buyer figure. I think that the Europeans are scary in this one. Last year, they had a 50-1 European beat a 15-1 European that I had in first. We're not going to go into that because they're crossing the pick 5 and the pick 4. But last year, wasn't it European? It was three O'Briens.
It was Aidan O'Brien, top 3.
Yeah.
And they're all long shots. And
so it's like, yeah, go figure, right? Welcome to the Breeders' Cup. I think Mo Fuerza is the U.S.'s best chance to win, and I think Mo Fuerza is a dominant horse and could win. I don't think Mo Fuerza is going off of more than 3-1. I don't think 3-1 is a bad price on Mo Fuerza in that race. How about we put it that way?
That's a good way of putting it. I was just laughing at Jason's comment. They better close the border other than Canada. Here comes the Europeans. That's good. I'm with Nick. Mo Forza looked about 75-80%, still won.
Peter Miller said he wasn't juiced up. He didn't say juiced up. He said he wasn't keyed up.
That was good. I was like, boy, I missed that one. Slip of the tongue there, Peter. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is Peter Miller said after the race, I was worried he wasn't fit enough. Why'd you put him in the damn race if you weren't? Oh, goddamn. But so good. And as Nick says here, Mo Forza third off the layoff and Pratt up. It's going to be real tough. He loves Del Mar. I'm with you. We'll say, at least as far as the Americans, the ones we know are coming, pointing for this race, it is his race to lose. If Palace Pier comes over for John Gosden, good luck. It's going to take all the. Don't bet another Miller horse all weekend. He's going to put everything he's got into Mo Forza to try and beat Palace Pier.
And this would be Mo Fuerza's second win on Breeders' Cup Day. Won on the undercard 2 years ago at Santa Anita.
Yep, that was the Twilight Derby, right?
That's when the lure of Mo Fuerza started going. Honestly, Mo Fuerza is one of the 3 saddle cloths that I need in my life right now. I will go to the ends of earth. Well, not the ends of earth. If one pops up on eBay, I'm buying it. Don't try and outbid me. That's really the bottom line.
Alex, by the way, late joining, still in pain from that 8 getting re-rallied on. Went 5 of 6 on the pick 6. Let's not get Mike started on that. That was was so brutal. I felt bad for you, buddy. I
thought he was freaking home, and that was just. It didn't end up mattering because it was Tripoli'd me, but man, that was in the moment. That was a pretty brutal loss.
Mike, we had a couple of races with 3-year-old fillies across the country. We'll start with the Torrey Pine Stakes at Del Mar, a great $300,000 race going a mile in the dirt. Nothing to see really here. A bunch of stretch-out sprinters, including Bob Baffert's Private Mission. She won it easily. Very slow times on that all across the board. We also saw a much better performance from a 3-year-old filly across the country at Saratoga. Malathat winning the Grade 1 Alabama. She does it all on class. It wasn't the most visually popping thing. She didn't win by a country mile like Private Mission. But we can discuss both of those. My one burning question for you, looking at the Breeders' Cup Distaff, which Malathat is reportedly going to train up towards now, do you foresee a 3-year-old filly winning the Breeders' Cup Distaff this year, or will it be an older female?
You always ask these questions, but I'm not really sure. But so now I got to think through. Okay, who's the older females that could possibly run in this race?
Latruska, She Dares the Devil.
I haven't seen anyone that can beat Latruska yet. I mean, she is kind of like the Knicks Go of the Phillies side, where she's going to go and you got to try and beat her. And I think she's awfully tough. I would take Latruska over anyone in that field right now. I mean, and this is the thing. This is what I'm really excited about the Breeders' Cup right now. I would take Latruska if you told me one pick on top, who you got. Give me, even money on everybody. I would take Knicks Go on pick, on top, even money on everybody. However, both races are interesting to me. Essential Quality is interesting on the male side in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think you're going to have a couple other entries, and it'll be interesting to see if anyone decides to absolutely burn it up with Knicks Go. On the Phillies side, I think that some of these 3-year-old fillies have a chance to be competitive here. You've seen races that can beat Latruska out of a couple of them. I think you're going to have, let's call them 6-5, 7-5 favorites, but competitive fields around them, which is always exciting to see on these big days.
Let me ask you quick, because this is a great discussion point. Latruska, everybody seems to think of it. She really has done nothing wrong to say otherwise why she shouldn't be a heavy pick to win the Distaff. What if she doesn't like Del Mar? What if she doesn't like the Del Mar dirt? I mean, Arrogate was supposedly unbeatable. And look what happened. The Del Mar dirt just ruined it.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. I was more confident in Monomoy Girl last year than anyone in the Distaff this year, right? I think Monomoy Girl, to me, was like a lock last year in that race. And I played a monster cold exacta there. In this one, I don't think Malathat is – I'm sorry. I don't think that Latruska is that same lock. I think she'll go off close to the same price. Maybe a little high. I think Monomoy Girl went off at 3-5.
Speaking of Stone Cold Exacta, Ross says the Latruska Malathat Exacta, you're going to need to pay a lot of money to make anything off of that. I think those are, right now, probably your 2 favorites. We'll see what Swiss Skydiver does. But Dennis says, what if she goes to the Classic? I don't think that's even on the table.
I would be surprised, yeah.
No, she's a grinder, but a mile and a quarter, she's not. No, I would not at 3. And I don't know, you paid $1 million for her, and she's a multiple Grade 1 winner. I don't know if she's going to race it for. We'll see what they decide to do. So Malathat looked good. There probably wasn't anybody out of that race, the Alabama, other than Malathat that we want to talk about. And really, honestly, Mike, the Torrey Pines, ridiculously slow fractions, and every horse in this pretty bad, even as far as California dirt standards go, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've known all year that California had the best 3-year-olds for the most part. I mean, you have Essential Quality who's sprinkled in there, but the next 4 are all California horses, it looked like. On the boys' side, they have had the worst on the fillies' side. Like, fillies have not been able to run with any other region. So I just fade the California horses when you're playing these 3-year-old filly races. Unless it's all California horses, and then play the Bob Baffert that's going to air the field.
Well, that's why I got private mission up there. Dennis says I meant Latruska, not Malathat. I think Latruska still goes to the distaff. Would you do that too?
Yeah, I don't see. The only filly I could see going to the Classic is Swiss Skydiver.
Yeah, she's kind of like how Tiz just needs more and more distance to keep going. It's kind of similar there. Let's stay with the same gender. We'll stay with the fillies and mares. We had a couple of nice 3-year-old fillies winning. These were a lot more exciting to me than the dirt races for the 3-year-old fillies. Mike, Going Global, the favorite in the Del Mar Oaks. You had said when we were previewing the pick forward that this could have been a single for you. You really loved her chances there. That would have been a smart decision. One of Flavien Prat's 3 big graded stakes wins. Across the country, Jose Ortiz earlier in the day piloted Technical Analysis. Beautiful, beautiful ride from Jose Ortiz to win the Lake Placid. No pace at all on paper. Not a horse that necessarily wants to go to the lead, but he knew there's no pace. It's New York. Go to the front, put him to sleep. She kind of blew the turn a little bit, but these were pretty impressive. Do you think any of these horses, either of these horses, go to the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf? And my one burning question building on that, did you see anything this weekend that changes your mind about Santa Barbara and Althiqa, the 2 Europeans?
No, I didn't. I think they're still the top 2 in this division until something happens to prove otherwise. But let me tell you, the Technical Analysis race is sneaky good. I mean, it looked like she just wired the field, went slow up front. What did we learn about that Saratoga turf when there was water in it? You cannot be on the lead and win, right? And the rail especially has been bad. I think she partially blew the turn. I think the plan was to put her in the 3 to 4 path around that turn, because that was clearly the better path on the turf. The inside was absolutely dead. You saw it in the turf sprint that day. I think you wanted to be off that rail. So I don't think it was as much blowing the turn as positioning yourself correctly on the racetrack. She was able to go wire to wire, which I think also you got to kind of tip the cap to. Obviously the fractions weren't fast, but it was a freaking bog at Saratoga on the turf. They only ran 4 races on the turf in those 2 days, 1 per day on Saturday and Sunday. The only horse that went wire to wire, the only horse that was on the lead that was anywhere near the lead at the end was Technical Analysis. So I think this was actually a very, very, very good race. It's going to come up slow and the time isn't going to be great. It's going to look like she wired a bad field and blah, 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 blah. I think this is a sneaky better race on paper. It'll be interesting to see what you can do with it, if there is any edge to it next time out, if you're able to get a bit of a price. But I thought this was a really impressive effort from Technical Analysis. Going Global also looked dominant, by the way. Like, absolutely wonderful winning that race. You had the 2 horse who kind of got loose a little bit up front, wasn't able to take the field wire to wire. You had Closing Remarks who ran on. That's going to be my biggest knock here on Going Global. She's beating the same horses, right? I mean, it's literally just beating the same competitors. And Closing Remarks was dodging her. Now we know why, right? Closing Remarks ran well, but still can't beat her.
She did.
And so, to me, it's like Going Global is clearly the class of this field, but when you stack up the California 3-year-old fillies on turf, is that really going to stack up against the best fillies in the world?
Well, I'm glad you say that, because 3rd place finisher in this race was Fluffy Socks. Chad Brown trainee, who was second to Technical Analysis in the Grade 3 Lake George. Chad Brown split them apart. He didn't want to keep running them against each other. You could see why with Technical Analysis. I didn't think that Fluffy Socks looked as strong as I had hoped. After we saw what Technical Analysis did, everybody I think was like, oh, you've got to play Fluffy Socks in the Del Mar Oaks. And she got 3rd. Going Global did beat her. So I guess my question for you is, if you were to compare these 2 fillies, Going Global finished better against Fluffy Socks and Technical Analysis. Are you still taking Technical Analysis between these 2?
Yeah, I am. I mean, look, Technical Analysis did it against a really good field 2 back coming from off the pace. She did it on the lead on a bad turf against a weaker field. Let's be honest. That field, like, you had a maiden who was 3 to 1 in that race. It was like the horse. It was crazy. Horse missed the break, made a huge move around the turn and almost won as a maiden. And then this was the race they put him into. But when that's your 3 to 1 second choice, it's kind of calling out the rest of the field. I'm not saying the maiden shouldn't have been 3-1 or the second choice. I'm saying that tells you what else is in that field, right? So this was probably a better field that Going Global beat, but technical analysis race 2-back was better. And I would still lean toward technical analysis over Going Global. But I mean, look, Going Global hasn't done anything wrong. It's not like when you look through her form at this point, you can really knock her, especially when you're talking about going the 1.8 mile distance, which is a big thing that we talked about. She's now won back-to-back races. The thing is when you talk about her competing with someone like Santa Barbara, she's got to take a monster step forward.
Yeah. And
I'm just not sure that step forward is in her. Technical analysis, I don't think we've seen the best from, and I think has a better chance of taking a big step forward. And that's why I would say technical analysis when you're comparing these two. But to be honest, I mean, you really think either can beat Santa Barbara?
No, and I'm thinking of a comment that Caleb Keller of TVG, when he was guesting on our show a few weeks back, one thing that he said is, I don't lie. He said, what I see with my eyes tells me, because he said that was his best handicapping tool, what he himself sees with his own eyes. What we've seen, I love Going Global, I love Pratt, I love Phil D'Amato, you know that. What we've seen from Santa Barbara, good golly. The only horse from the Americans who maybe has a chance really is being brought up in the chat is Warlike Goddess. And I love you and I both love Warlike Goddess, Mike. I don't know if we're taking them to beat the Europeans. It's going to take a real special effort from her.
Yeah, I mean, I would take Warlike Goddess over either of these two we're talking about. I mean, and think about this. Think that Santa Barbara just dusted Mean Mary, okay? Yes. Mean Mary would have dusted either of these fields. Let's just start with that as the baseline. So, these are all really nice fillies. It's no shame that you can't win the Breeders' Cup Classic with older fillies and mares running on the turf when you have some of the best coming from Europe. It just, these two I think are a step behind right now. Maybe they'll improve as 4-year-olds though. We can see them back next year.
That would be lovely. Speaking of Europeans, Mike, we saw a race that was going to had a Breeders' Cup winning year in for the Breeders' Cup Turf. That was Astronaut with a 24-1 upset with my buddy Victor Espinoza in the saddle. I don't hate Victor as much as we like to play it up on this show. I feel like sometimes, apparently, Mike, you and I need to explain if it's bits that we're doing because Aaron doesn't always catch it. I don't hate him. I don't hate Victor Espinoza. He's not my favorite jockey to bet. I cannot understand a John Sheriff's horse to save my life. Other than Honor AP winning the San Anita Derby, that's the only horse I could ever figure out that Sheriff's has trained. I'm always on the wrong side. They win, they lose, whatever. But to Aaron's credit, he had told me earlier in the day the Astronaut he thought had a shot. Apparently the Sheets players really loved Astronaut in this position. However, even though he wins the Del Mar Handicap and gets that Breeders' Cup winning year in for the Turf, which is going to be held over the same course, is it even more possible to want to bet the Europeans after what we just saw this last weekend?
I mean, look, I always lean toward betting Europeans in the Breeders' Cup races, so I'm going to generally say yes to this. Astronaut was at least gettable here. Let's talk about this horse for a little bit when you're handicapping. Okay, first off, I went 5 deep and used a 30-1 and a 15-1 morning line horse. That tells you I think the race is wide open in that sense. So right away, you can kind of go price hunting in this style of race more than anything else. I liked Arklow. I didn't think United was that strong of a play here. When you look back at Astronaut, and you look at the last 3 races, because I think that's where you need to focus, right? Pratt rides this horse when he breaks his maiden. That's a very good sign. Anytime Pratt's on a horse in California, it means the horse has talent. You go 3 back, who'd this horse lose to? Tripoli. And the non-winners of 1. The winner of the freaking Pacific Classic right before. Then you go 2 back. The horse has trouble at the start, gets bumped, has to angle in, angle out, doesn't get a clear run, still ends up running second with Pratt aboard. And then you go to the last race, the horse lost the whip. There's reasons to say, okay, there's a couple trouble. You've run against good horses, have had good jockeys. And oh, by the way, this is a 4-year-old who's later in the season and who can improve. If you like Tripoli race before, this is a really logical horse. If you're trying to come up with angles, this isn't the worst one. I mean, I used the 2 because Mike McCarthy had it in grade 1 and then in grade 2. This is a more based in factual angle than, hey, I trust Mike McCarthy, isn't it? And so when you're talking about 4-year-old first off the layoff, aggressively placed, trouble in the last 2, just missed a Tripoli, there are a bunch of different ways that you can kind of get to that horse, right?
There are. And as you mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Classic, it was easier, and I think you said this in the live stream too, it's easier to get to Astronaut in this race than Tripoli in the Pacific Classic. I think partially because Tripoli is part of this group of older males in California on the dirt that just love to beat up on each other. One wins, then the other wins, and the other wins, and the other wins, and you now throw him into the mix there.
Yep.
So I can understand that. I was in the same boat with you with the San Diego race specifically. Astronaut 24-1. Listen, I had hit the all button in the last leg here on the advice of Aaron Halterman. If I'd gotten through with Tripoli and was sitting there looking at all the wheel pace here, that live stream would have gone a little differently, I think.
Well, if Tiz the Magician had won the race before, that live stream would have gone a little bit differently too. Because I would have been live to the 6 in the pick 6, and that would have freaking stung.
To lose by a half length.
The neck. Or no, half length, yeah.
Yep, yeah.
And the 6 was coming on the outside too, and just wasn't able to shake loose. I honestly would stable up the 6 horse, and I'm not just saying this because I liked it on Saturday. Masterpiece was in the Chad Brown barn. Obviously, Chad Brown's a respected turf trainer, has multiple hundred buyers. Shows up in the Michael McCarthy barn, a trainer that we both like quite a bit. Thinks he's very good as a horseman. He ran very well in this race, and if you're looking at kind of what comes out of it, this is a 97 first off the bench for him. I don't think this race is full of world beaters, but I do think Masterpiece has the ability to take a step forward off this. I would be interested in Masterpiece, especially if you can get him at a price in a graded stakes next time out.
He was one that when you talked about him on Magic Mike's show while you were using him, Chad Brown had told Don Alberto Stable, who bred and co-owns the horse, he needs firmer turf than what he's going to get here. Send him to California, and that's why he came here. So I wanted to use him at different points because of that angle. So luckily, hitting the all button would have gotten me there on that one. But yeah, this is not the best field. I want to talk for a second about United. That horse, I know I'm biased, but I watched the replay again today. I swear I'm not biased on this. He had such a goddamn awful trip. He was the best horse, in my opinion, in that race, and Flavien Prat lost the race with his trip, and Prat said so after the race. He said so on Sunday that it was his fault that United didn't win that. I still want to use him when he goes to the Breeders' Cup Turf underneath. I don't think that he beats the Europeans, but if you remember when it was held at Santa Anita a couple of years ago, he just missed a bricks and mortar because it was on a turf course that was very firm in California that he loved. But yeah, so now tell me that I'm very biased on United.
No, I hope we get a big price on United. That's going to be my response to that. I think what was he against bricks and mortar that day?
Like 50-1.
That's what I'm looking for. And I don't think that we're going to get that big of a number. And that's the problem, is that I think we're going to end up with something, and I remember that race actually, bricks and mortar and the 3 horses underneath the $5 super paid like $7,500, I think.
Anthony Van Dyke was third. Yep.
Yeah. Cause it was just monster numbers underneath. Look, I think United's interesting underneath. I agree with you. Loves the turf course. The buyers fit. Like, the fact of the matter is there were 4 horses that got 97 buyers for this race. That meant that a lot of the horses that didn't win could have won the race, right? I mean, you go back and United's popped 100 buyers. Master Foxhounds has a 99. Masterpiece has 2 over 100. Acclimate has over 100. Arklow has 3 over 100. Actually, more than that, 7 or 8 over 100. There's a lot of horses who back races would have beaten this race today against this field. And you just kind of didn't get a lot of that. I think Arklow and United are two that kind of disappointed they didn't run a little bit better. Arklow just sucked. United had a bad trip. So, we can give a little bit of more of a pass to United in that stance.
Boy, I do not know what happened with Arklow. That's not, you couldn't even blame the course. He loved it. He's won the Grade 2 Hollywood Turf Cup here before. So,
well, that's the thing. It seemed like all systems go, and he just didn't. No systems were go. They would go backward. Yeah, it was not great.
I know some people want to blame Florent Giroux for that one. Dennis says, I also think the 11 who say the word had a nightmare of a trip. And I will say, to Mike Somich's credit, when I wanted to use him in the pick 4, Mike said, don't do it because that 11 post, 3 turns is going to be real tough for him. So you were right on that one. Oh, boy. Well, Mike, that is it for all of the racing. But I do have one more burning question for you regarding the NHC. On Monday, what will Mike Somich's NHC chart read?
Oh, man. Off slow, lacked room, flying late, and then lost the rider at the finish line.
Love it.
I always get off poorly in these tournaments. Yeah. And then I hit my stride toward the end of day 1 and make a illogical run. And then I have like 1 or 2 early horses that hit, and then nothing until the end, and then I somehow made the money, and then I fell off on day 3. I looked back at my numbers from last year. I cashed $0 on my 10 optional plays on Friday or on Saturday on the second day. Like, if that goes marginally better, I made the money without making a dime on my optional plays in one day. It's like, okay, like they just got to do a little bit better on those, and we're locked and loaded. So I'm excited to be honest, I'm excited that this is in August and not January. I mean, I planned on playing turf races only last year, and Ellis was off, and I think Gulfstream was on one day, and Fairgrounds was off the turf. It just like it took a little bit of the bite out of me, and so I'm excited that we'll definitely have Del Mar turf racing. I'm expecting Woodbine turf racing. I mean, Saratoga, who knows? It's on and off. They're all over the place. Gulfstream hopefully has some turf racing. So I think we'll have a better set of races because of the race dates this year.
Didn't one of the tracks cancel their card part of the way through due to weather? Was that Laurel?
I think it was Laurel canceled one day too. Yeah,
they canceled Saturday.
It was a shit show, for lack of a better term. And then you're just like, okay, got to adjust. And so I'm hoping that we don't have to do as much adjusting. And this time it's much more of, okay, let's focus. Also, I don't know if I'm sure you remember, my computer took a shit on Thursday too. So I walk in, I had all of my research on my computer, and it literally was broken. The motherboard wouldn't load up. So I had to do it all over again. And I have like these pieces of paper with just like chicken scratch on which races I'm going to play. So hopefully the computer doesn't break. I actually printed out every single form already for Friday, so I'm already doing the work on paper wise, so I'm ready for it even if it does. But yeah, it's hopefully we will have a little bit better of a story to tell on Monday. Hopefully I'm not on the show Monday. Let's just put it that way.
I missed
my flight because I am drunk partying on Sunday night.
I originally was going to my plan was to open the show saying, unfortunately, this is the second to last episode Mike Somich will ever appear on, because after he wins the NHC this weekend, he's going to come back eventually from a drunken stupor, retire on air, give me the finger, and then leave. So yeah, hey, if that happens, I'll be happy for you. It'd be good content.
I wouldn't do that, man. I enjoy doing the podcast too much.
Oh, that's so great. Listen, coming up this weekend, I don't know if you heard about it. Other than NHC, there's this little race, Mike, called the Travers Stakes happening at Saratoga. Oh, boy, there's already a spelling error. This is what happens when I don't post stuff. His name is Miles D, but we'll get there. Listen, you got right now we got 7 contenders listed. Essential Quality, obviously the heavy favorite, is going to be the horse everybody's eyeing. Assume, Mike, that you're getting decent, reasonable prices on the other horses here, and assume this is a mandatory race for you to have to bet at NHC. Who is your NHC play from the Travers field?
Ugh.
Who gets second
really?
at the best price?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if it's mandatory, I'm playing at price. I hate Keep Me in Mind. It's probably going to be a shorter price.
So you go with our boy Midnight Bourbon. I mean, he's pretty one-paced, so if he gets second early, he'll probably finish second.
Here's the thing: Midnight Bourbon is better than the other horses. So yeah, I'm going Midnight Bourbon if this is a mandatory, assuming I get 5-1 or better.
You thought I was going to ask you who you're picking to win. Nope. Listen, we have the inside track to the Travers Stakes wagering guide coming out later this week at racingdudes.com. Aaron and Jared are going to be at the Travers along with Saratoga Slim. If you're going to be there, Saratoga Slim is paying off his losing bet from the Fantasy League a couple of years, or was it this year? This year, yeah. So make sure you go to Saratoga and really look for Saratoga Slim in whatever suit he's wearing or what little things Jared puts him in. But that also means is that when Aaron and Jared are at the track and there's a guide, their live bankroll article is going to be included. And guys, that is the best thing that we have in the guide ever. They currently have a 32% positive ROI if you just play every single bet exactly how they tell you to from these wagering guides. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite things to bet now is because I feel like I'm joining in on the group and we're all doing this together. And also turns out pretty profitable. So make sure you check that out. Mike, I know you're going to be off Thursday. So later this week, I had Andrew Champagne on to preview Saratoga. And then I ended up hitting the pick 4 that day. Well, now his podcast partner, JD Fox, is going to be joining me this Thursday to preview the Travers card at Saratoga. So I'll miss you on the show, but you'll be in pretty good hands. And if JD's any luck like Andrew was, I'll be cashing a pick 4 ticket on Saturday.
I love it, man. No, they're both awesome handicappers. Love their podcast. It's one of the ones I listen to when I'm playing basketball. So excited to have them on again. It's crazy. The podcast world is all the buzz right now. The horse racing world with America's Best Racing throwing up the nominations for best podcast. We were fortunate enough to be on that list. So if you're listening and you'd feel like voting for us, go over and vote. If you feel like voting for someone else, lose the link. No, things like it's just joking around. It's pretty cool just to be on the list and be on there with people like Steve Bick and Jason Beam and things like that. So it's fun to be up there, and then we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend, man. And I might just have to pop in on that Thursday show at some point, depending on how we're doing in the first chance, last chance. And maybe I'll get Papa Samo to get in there. I mean, we got Papa Dude throwing content left, right, and center. So you never know.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because Dennis brought it up in the chat. Yeah, look at that. So I got the email. I'm sure, I don't know if you did as well, but I know Aaron Jared did too. Both Racing Dudes podcasts are part of this ABR fan choice this year. And as Jared and Aaron tweeted about earlier, they were one of 2 horse racing podcasts when they started this 9 years ago. So to have both of their shows officially nominated for this is pretty awesome. I'm going to actually put it in the chat if you're watching on YouTube on the replay or something. The link, if you can guys do us a favor, go vote. Listen, if you like the Blinkers Off guys more than us and you want to go vote for that show instead, by all means go for it. You know, we're not too biased on this one as long as one of our shows wins, but we know we win or lose, we know we have the best fans supporting us. So don't feel too bad if we don't end up getting it.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised we were on the list. I'm happy they're doing it this way this year. Last year they hired an independent consulting company that came up with 5 people for each nomination, and people lost their shit because of who the 5 were in some of the categories. So, a cool way to do this. I think the top 5 go on to the finals. But yeah, it's fun to be on that list with people that you listen to all the time, and it's fun to have podcasts that we've been on that are on that list too. Red Boy Rebind from the In the Money Network's on there. I did an NHC podcast this week with Peter Thomas Forintel, and he's got his podcast up there. So it's cool to kind of see that representation as well.
Boom. It's in the chat. It's in the YouTube. Don't try and click on your screen because that doesn't work. But yeah, you can click on it in the chat. I've done that before. That's why I say that. Make sure you don't make that mistake. Make sure you don't miss the Magic Mike Show on Thursday, where I'll be joined by JD Fox to preview the Travers Stakes card. The inside tracks to the Travers Stakes wagering guide will be available later this week. Check racingdudes.com. I know that Mike's going to be very busy with NHC and with the bombs. When do you fly out? On Wednesday?
Flat Wednesday morning. Okay. Super excited. Glad that much like you, the in-laws are coming, so they'll be here with Jenna and with Lily. So that's all taken care of. But Dad and I both get in on Wednesday morning. Yeah, and then we got rooms at Bally's, and we're just going to do it up. Have a good time in Vegas, man.
Is Bally's hosting it?
Yeah, Bally's hosting again this year.
Who hosted it last? Was Bally's hosting it last year?
Yeah. Bally's was hosting it last year too.
There's a lot of alcohol that weekend. I'm sorry. As there should be. Listen, thank you so much for joining Mike and I for 302 episodes of this. If you can go ahead and vote for us, we really appreciate it. We'll be back together Monday or Thursday next week. We'll figure it out. Until then, follow us on Twitter. I am at Curtis Callaward. He is at SummerBomb18, number 1, number 8. Corporate Overlords at Racing_Dudes. Of course, I am Magic.
And I'm Mike.
We'll see you next time.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.